Let's start the day with some Josh Strife Hayes. Overall, his takes on MMOs are decent, are good. Let's just say this: they are good. Okay. What's wrong with the scenes? There we go. That's better. It looks better now. Anyways, as always, before we start with the video, we go through the comments. Let's see what people are saying. Framinthor 14 has noticed this in recent patches. They have been remaking the early dungeons to have actual mechanics like you'd see in a max level dungeon, just a bit slower and easier to dodge. Very well said. Guild Wars 2 does a good job with their zone scaling design to supplement this idea. And FF14 roulettes and dungeon scaling make a good attempt at this solution too. I hope developers continue to realize the disparity that has slowly grown between the MMO and RPG elements of their games over the years. And remember that we wanted to do this thing together. City of Heroes had this figured out more than 15 years ago. Sidekick bring lobbies up to high player level. Or Exemplar allow high-level players to participate in low-level content via voluntary nerfs. Let players play together instantly and experience or re-experience content far outside their own. This actually led directly into something really interesting, since players had unique storylines based on their superhero's origin. They would not experience any of the other origin storylines without making another character, or voluntarily exemplaring themselves and helping out other new players through their origin storylines. Okay. My partner and I started playing FF14 2 years ago when we were invited by friends who were max level. They took us through many of the first dungeons and trials, and then when we got comfortable in the mid-level playing style, we went through Palace of the Dead, the deep dungeon, together. It was new content for all of us, which was really fun to be able to do. Now my partner and I are max level, hopefully 2 years later, and are inviting other friends to play with us, and being able to do the dungeons and trial with them is so rewarding and cool. Also want to mention FF14's Hall of the Novice. I had never played an MMORPG when I started 14, and those friends told me to go do that before going into Sastasha. Got lots of info that helped, as well as a new shiny set gear. 14 isn't perfect, but it does a lot of these things really well. Anyways, let's watch the video.
Skirmishes, dungeons, and raids. Endgame skirmishes, dungeons, and raids. Endgame content in many MMORPGs, often large-scale team-based challenges where a mix of players with different classes, skills, and specializations work together to take down a massive multi-mechanic boss and earn some epic loot. Now, usual design has dungeons and raids as the content...
No. You don't get it, Josh. In all MMOs except WoW, you would get loot for killing a raid boss. Except WoW. In WoW, what you get is maybe 4 out of 20% chance you're gonna get some shit. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
You reach after hours and hours of early game grinding, but I think dungeon and raid-like experiences should be available for all players from the very start of an MMORPG.
So about dungeons, I agree. The problem with having raids available, technically raids are available pretty early on, even in WoW. Like, well, I guess maybe not. When would you be able to do a raid in WoW? Level 30, I think? Currently? Yeah, I think it's level 30. But like, who's gonna do it with you? You know?
People are often saying the MMO has become less social, and we need to find ways to help encourage player interaction.
The reason MMO became less social is because we are overly social everywhere else. You're not social in the game because of Discord and YouTube and Twitch and Facebook. That's why you're not social in the game. Not saying that it's like, well, I get my social fucking kicks out of Facebook. No, but it's like you go to a stream of somebody who plays the MMO and you can talk to the people there. You can talk to the streamer, pretend that he cares. So it's like the parasocial stuff kind of ruins social interactions for people in game. I would say that's a big one.
Mechanics which facilitate the whole multiplayer element of the MMO acronym. Then there are players saying they feel apprehensive about being thrown into multiplayer content and not quite...
Also, this is just a random theory by me, I think the reason MMORPG players are not social is because majority of them are boomers, and boomers are naturally not very social. It's like they have their own friend group that they already know because they've been playing MMORPGs for the last 20 years. So they have those people, or on another note, they might not have any friends left to play MMORPG, so they just gave up on making friends because all of their friends left them. So they're like, fuck it, I don't need no friends, I can play this on my own. Two reasons that MMORPG players are not social.
Knowing what to do, being given a sudden surge of responsibility for other players. And then you have old players lament how they can't team up with their lower level mates because there's very little content which applies to both of them. Well, early game dungeons and raids could potentially address all of these things without compromising the solo experience. So, let's discuss. Welcome, I'm Josh Strife Hayes. I've played a lot of MMORPGs, and one of the design choices I see most often, a trope of the genre if you will, is dungeons and raids need to be end game content, as in you must slog through the rest of the game to get to them.
What is this mug? Is this a mug of himself?
And I find that's a shame, because dungeons and raids are some of the best experiences you can have in an MMORPG. They facilitate multiplayer content, allowing you to team up with your friends or the community as a whole. They're also a great way of teaching new players mechanics, both relevant to their class.
I would agree to this part. I don't know if I would say this is like the peak of MMORPGs, being able to do a dungeon. Depends, I guess, but like learning mechanics and stuff like that dungeons is a great way, yeah.
And relevant to the in-game environment specifically.
Yeah.
If your game is going to become about dungeons and raids, then setting that as the foundation is a really good starting point. You build off what your game will become with a simpler version of what it will become. New players that are joining your...
How would you do raids for lower level, though? I think Final Fantasy does it well with trials, so you have the trials throughout leveling. Obviously, you don't... Actually, you have them through 1 to 50 as well, right? You have Ifrit is at like level 32, I think. So technically, and Ifrit is technically a raid. It's a trial, yeah, but it's like essentially a raid boss. It's an 8-player, 8-man raid and stuff like that. So, I mean, I guess, but I don't know. How would you really integrate early raids? Especially like something like WoW, where it's like no one queues for early raids, you know, because there's no point.
MMO for the first time, or experienced players coming from another game to yours don't want to feel that they're playing through an irrelevant section of your game before getting to the good bit, what it could be. People don't want to feel like your early game is filler, and one of the best ways to make players feel that they are always playing something relevant is to allow dungeons, raids, or multiplayer group content to be available from the very start.
See, I agree. However, I don't know how you would... Like, first of all, I need to understand which MMORPG he's really talking about. Because Guild Wars 2, I would say you didn't feel relevant. Dungeons start pretty damn late, I feel like, in Guild Wars 2. At least it takes a while before you hit your first dungeon. Things like level 30-something. And it's like, okay, raids, I didn't even get to raids, and I got to like max level, so it's like I don't even know when raids start in Guild Wars 2. ESO has tons of dungeons. The trials, I think it's called trials too, start max level, so obviously you don't have those. I don't know, man, like, it feels like in all MMORPGs, the end game is really where the raids are. The dungeons, obviously, you get throughout leveling, but it's like raids, like, I feel like it requires too many people and too much of a high chance of failure, so it's a waste of time.
Before we begin, a massive thank you to all the supporters on...
Damn, look at all these fucking supporters. Holy
Patreon
shit,
and
man.
Twitch who keep the channel alive. You've been asking if I'll put the Patreon names on 2 pages. No, I won't. The text will just keep getting small. More information on how you can support at the end. For now, let's talk dungeons. To understand why...
It's like at some point people have to use the magnifying glass.
I feel this element of MMO design needs to be pushed far more. We need to understand the strengths of player choice in roleplay games, the strengths of player interaction and ease of access in multiplayer games, and how they combine within MMOs. Let's start with the basic foundational strength of the RPG genre. We're not going to look at multiplayer yet. Take some of the greatest RPGs of all time. Baldur's Gate, Morrowind, The Witcher 3. They all focus on allowing the player to explore a variety of gameplay styles and taking on challenges with a slight personal touch.
Why are you rolling all the time?
Focusing on magic or melee, light armor or heavy armor? Are you slow and calculated or brash and aggressive? But beyond that, they are designed so the player gets to experience the strength of the game relatively early on. If the game is focused on narrative choices like Baldur's Gate, you'll be making narrative choices quickly. If it's focused on tracking and hunting monsters like in The Witcher 3, you'll be tracking and hunting a griffin as your first task. If it's about encouraging open world exploration like Morrowind, you'll be sent off to join a guild. These are gameplay elements the game will build on for the rest of the game because they value them. They lay the foundation for the groundwork for what the game will become very early. Put simply, if an RPG game knows that it...
The Witcher 3 was such an easy game, I actually had to make it on like the hardest mode to actually get challenged. And all it did really is make the bosses just have way more HP and hit harder. But because of the shield sign, it was like still a joke.
Its endgame experience is a certain type of gameplay, it will prepare you as a player for that type of gameplay from the start. It may even use a more toned down, simplistic version of that gameplay as the training in itself. There's a reason that single-player RPGs don't pad themselves out with kill 10 of this or collect 10 of this, because they know that design is padding and not necessarily engaging. If the game...
And also, I don't know why MMORPGs would do that if they know it's padding and not engaging. Just don't do that fucking design. I prefer the Final Fantasy way where it's like, well, just kill 2. You know, whatever. Just kill 2 or 3 kind of like on the way, you know, so whatever.
The game itself is a giant challenge. Everything it will give you is preparation and training to take on that challenge at the end. MMORPGs have great challenges at the end game. It's just such a shame that the early and mid-game experience is less about preparing for the challenge and more about wasting the player's time until they reach the challenge. Now let's look at some of the more popular multiplayer games, not necessarily RPGs, just multiplayer experiences like
Do people still play this game? Bro, I never liked this game.
Minecraft, Fortnite, or League of Legends. In this footage specifically, me playing Fall Guys. Bear with me, this does make sense. I believe one of the greatest strengths of these games is you can invite your friends to play and be playing with them almost immediately. You tell them about an awesome new game you found or a game you've played for years, they download it, and then you're gaming together. You may be highly skilled, they may be a beginner, or you may both be beginners, but you can play together. And here's the important touch. You can both do the thing that the game is good at.
Bro, this map is so shit. How are you even gonna turn that blue over? What the fuck? This is such a dumb map.
Or is known for quickly. You can build in Minecraft. You can start shooting in Apex Legends. These games do not make you play through hours of early content before rewarding you with their best. For example, with Fall Guys, it took me about 30 seconds from launching the game to finding a game and playing with the community. Now, I know that MMORPGs are much more complicated, but what we're looking at here is the multiplayer aspect of playing with other people.
But here's the thing, you might as like Fall Guys, you might as well play with bots. Like there's the stuff where you play with your friends and stuff, okay, that's cool. But if you just join a random game, you might as well play with bots, to be honest.
Easily. And now I'd like to ask a simple question. When you're talking to your friends about MMORPGs that you have played, reliving the epic adventures that you have had, and you're trying to convince them to come and play with you, what kind of things do you talk about? Now, I broadly see people bring up two main topics when trying to advertise their MMO experience. Either difficult achievements they have worked toward and completed which they're proud of, like killing a boss or finally getting a rare achievement, finishing a jumping puzzle, or crafting a mythic item, which would make sense because the RPG element is designed to value this progression. Or they talk about...
I would never talk about stuff like that to somebody who doesn't play the game because they don't understand the achievements. Like, oh, well, you crafted a pixelated item, that's cool. No, I would say it's like, it's really cool, it's really fun, the dungeons are fucking interesting. You don't go into detail, because the details don't help the person who's like, doesn't know the game. Like, yo, the dungeons are sick, man, you're gonna do like all this fucking explode shit, pull a lot of, like something that, I don't know. But it's like, how would I sell WoW to a friend? It's like, yo, man, you can get this cool mount. Like, why would he care about a cool mount? He doesn't even play the game. Like, it's a pixelated fucking bullshit. Like, of course he wouldn't care.
Multiplayer experiences they've had with friends, from chilled, relaxed evenings chopping trees and fishing together, or more dramatic evenings delving into dungeons or hunting rare loot in dangerous places, which makes sense again because MMOs are multiplayer games. The strongest and
But who talks about that stuff? It's like, it's so weird. Who talks about this stuff? Like, imagine you're going to an outing to a bar. It's like, yo, yeah, I just finished this hard dungeon run. Who talks
powerful
about this?
personal anecdotes, though, are often combinations of both of them. Overcoming difficult challenges with your friends, like beating a boss together. When you're trying to convince your non-MMO playing friends to come and join you, you will tell them about all the amazing stuff that you can go and do together. Multiplayer.
Yes, that's literally all you would talk about. But you won't go into detail, because if you go into detail, the person would just be like, okay, so what do I need to do to go into a raid? You need to level to max level, you need to do your conduits, you need to do your, your alliances, you need to grab this gear, you need to do some Mythic Plus to gear up for this. Like, yeah, you're not gonna go into detail. You're gonna be like, yo, we can play this game together. It's like... I don't know. Like, how do you sell an MMORPG to a friend? I have no idea. It's like, you either want to play or not. It's like, it's a game I'm playing, I'm enjoying it, you'll probably enjoy it. Why? Try it and see. That's literally the best sale pitch I can give a friend to try and play an MMO. It's like, because you can't go into detail, it's irrelevant.
Player experiences such as dungeons and raids. But
oh my god.
What then happens when that person joins the game for the first time and realizes they are hours, days, in some cases weeks away of both the experience
they are.
and being able to team up with you?
Because they
More
are.
often than not, when a new friend joins a new
game.
MMORPG, they now have to go through hours and...
I can't play League of Legends with friends who just start playing League of Legends. It's not gonna be fun. It's the same thing. I don't want to play Warzone if I'm like I've been playing Warzone for like 2 years and my friend just joined Warzone. Trust me, I'm not gonna have fun. He's gonna keep dying and I'll just keep killing and it's like keep resurrecting him. He's not gonna have fun. I'm not gonna have fun. If we play League together, oh, that's great. Oh, a diamond player playing with a fucking iron player. Oh, that's fantastic. Guess who you're gonna be facing? Other diamond players. You think my friend's gonna have fun playing against diamond players? Fuck no. You know, it's like, it's so dumb. That's how the game works. All games, right? It's like, you can't just bring a new person into a game you've been playing for a long time and somehow you will both have fun. The only time this would happen is maybe like puzzle games, maybe something as stupid as Fall Guys. Even Fall Guys probably not, because you'll just, you know the map, you'll just rush to the ending and your friend will be stuck at the beginning, fucking keep falling. You're not gonna have fun if you play with somebody completely new. They need to get into the game and really put time in it. I have never had fun with a friend that joined the game and they sucked at the game. It's not, I don't find it possible.
Hours of early game.
Unless all you do is like super social stuff, but then it's like the game doesn't matter what game it is, it's just a platform. You might as well be on Discord and just chat while you play your own game.
Before reaching the fun bit that you were talking about or that you are at. And it's very hard to keep the energy and enthusiasm of, yeah, it's going to be amazing, we're going to go on adventures together, when you know you're following it up with, but first, several hours, possibly weeks, of early game grind. I had this exact experience when I tried to invite new friends to play essentially any MMORPG with me.
Any game. It's not even just MMO. Any game.
Realization that if I stayed on my high-level character, they were hours away from anything we could do together relevant to both of us. And if I start...
The only time that you can play an MMO with a friend and he's new, make a new character. Level with them. Don't tell them anything. It's like, how do I play Elden Ring with friends? We both make a new character and I'm hands off. We just fight mobs and that's it. He discovers everything. Right? If he asks a question, I'll give him a hint. Right? But I would have to be able to enjoy that part of the game. If I'm not enjoying that part of the game, but that's what the game is about, the exploration and the challenge, guess what? It's not going to be fun for my friend or for me, you know?
started a new character,
Sorry, it won't be fun for a friend if I just demolish everything and just like lead him by the nose, right? Just like, yeah, we're going here, yeah, we're going here. That's not gonna be fun for him. Or it might not be fun for me to just fucking start a new character and just be like, oh, we're re-exploring everything I already explored for hundreds of hours.
would both be hours away from anything remotely challenging worth teaming up on.
Always.
Now, this is an issue with the linear
matter.
nature of constant power gain in an RPG set in a multiplayer world. If you balance content for a certain power level, it is impossible below and irrelevant above. You're essentially creating brackets of gameplay experience, and if both players aren't in the same bracket, they can't enjoy the game together. Imagine the impact on early game player retention if multiplayer games like Apex Legends or Minecraft or Fortnite or even League of Legends simply did not let high-level and low-level players play together. And if both players start again as low level, they must both go through hours of early game experience before the multiplayer challenge opens up. The MMORPG combines the RPG-style gameplay with the online multiplayer element, and ironically, it does neither of these very well in the early to mid-game. If your end game is dungeons, raids, and bosses, and your early game is 8 to 20 hours of fetch quests and kill X quests, you have not laid the foundation for what will eventually become your core gameplay loop. And
I agree on this point. I don't see a fix for this. Do you just do Dungeon Runner? Like, the only game you can probably do it in is Monster Hunter. I believe that's pretty much all raids all the time, right? Or like all dungeons and on raids and bosses and all the time. That's one of the only games. I don't even know if you can call it an MMORPG. It's kind of like a dungeon crawler technically, right? But
so you can't teach the player the relevant skills they need to succeed within that gameplay loop. And if you're trying to team up with your friends and you can't until you've played many hours of single-player experience, then
right,
you're going to fall to the wayside against multiplayer games that encourage people teaming up from the very start. You're not playing to the strengths of the RPG, and you're not playing to the strengths of a multiplayer game. So how do we fix this? Well, one solution would just be to boost the new player to maximum, level scale them up to their friends and let them go and do a raid. This way their friend doesn't lose any progress, and
that won't really work. First of all, the friend will be carried because he wouldn't understand what the fuck is going on. Second of all, in an MMORPG, when you get to max level, you get a lot of buttons you're not used to. It's not gonna be very fun to try to figure out your rotations while the boss is being fought.
it skips the early game irrelevant grind and makes playing together effectively instant. But doing this brings up one of the most overlooked aspects of multiplayer content. It is remarkably scary for a new player to be thrown into multiplayer content with a level of responsibility you have not been trained for. The pressure of knowing other people are relying on you when you don't know what to do is quite intense. And when I say
especially if you're a main job tank or heal. Well, in 5NZ, unless it's Savage, you only need one tank really. In most trials, I believe you only need one tank, unless the tank dies. But like healers, you kind of want two healers.
What to do, I don't mean specific boss mechanics, I mean a foundation understanding of your class, role and skills within your team. Traditionally, the tank will use taunts to grab the trash mobs and then pop some mitigation while DPS burns them down. But if you've been leveling a tank class and the early RPG experience is kill X, collect X and talk to NPCs, you won't have experienced needing to taunt, mitigate or manage aggro for other players. A similar thing happens for healers. Healing yourself is very different to healing others, and knowing to prioritize the tank is something that we all take for granted, but a new player won't know. Even DPS players know you need to focus the enemy healers first or the fight is going to be longer, but common sense to us is actually years worth of solidified knowledge and is not obvious to a new player. So what we can ideally start looking at is a low stakes but highly educational experience within the early game of an MMORPG that new players and old players can access together, that will place them both onto a relatively simple, level playing field, potentially scaling the higher players down to make sure they're not overpowered. It will give the new players foundation knowledge of what the end game is going to become. It will allow them to experience their class and their role and responsibility within a party of players, hopefully giving them the confidence to step away from this training dungeon into a more complex, difficult endgame experience. It doesn't need to be anything complex within the narrative of the world. Maybe the king is recruiting for guards and has created a training course where the players need to navigate some danger.
Yeah, like a training course, something similar to how Final Fantasy has it with, I guess technically it's a training course and teaches you mechanics of dodging, teaches you like, hey, don't focus the tank, focus the DPS or the healer first, stuff like that. Yeah, but like, I don't know, man. Like at the end of the day, you want the person. I would say honestly, even in MMORPG, you want the people. I'm not saying the quests are good where you have to kill 20 mobs or whatever, but at the end of the day, you want them to get used to their character before you throw them into an environment filled with people knowing what the fuck they're doing, you know?
Dangerous terrain, fight some trash mobs, and then kill a boss, and you've got a variety of enemies, healers, ranged damage dealers, crowd control mechanics. And as you progress through, there are NPC trainers explaining the situation to you and which of your specific skills you will need to complete this challenge most effectively. You are effectively hiding a class and dungeon tutorial within the narrative of learning how to be a guard. This training dungeon doesn't need to be super complex, it just needs to be challenging enough for a new player to feel trained, tested, and then rewarded. And hey, if you're still nervous about your role within a group with other players, this dungeon can have AI-controlled bots filling the roles you're not playing, and you could have them explaining why they're doing what they're doing so you understand their roles as well. And if you're still unsure about the potential for this system, consider this. A max-level player will often finish a new dungeon or raid, having fought side by side with their friends, then they'll sit back and think, that was awesome, because that is what their game can be. Now, as a
I don't know, man. I never felt this. I cannot relate. I never felt this type of that was awesome from like a dungeon or a raid. Usually it was like, where the fuck is my loot?
New player, what moments have made you sit back and think, that was awesome? It's unlikely to be the
I mean, I would say this was the best and worst moment of my raiding career. Doing heroic on Taurus, I got a Titan Forge set chest piece that Titan Forge to 985 with a socket. I got my best in slot chest piece from a heroic dungeon. That felt really good and really bad, because that made me quit Mythic raiding for basically a whole expansion. Plus on Taurus. Because like, why the fuck am I even doing this shit? It's like such a waste. I can do it on Heroic.
The 15th Kill 15 Bears quest, and yet this is the vast majority of early game experiences. If new players cannot have engaging, awesome experiences with their old friends because there's no content bracket they both share, or they're too nervous to level boost, they will try to convince their old friends to start new characters. And if the old friends kindly do this, they'll then realise those awesome multiplayer moments are hours and hours away, replaced by the not very awesome experience of grind, which is a shame. Let's look into combining
just run some BGs or some shit, I guess.
Strengths of the RPG, foundation experiences building into greater challenges, and the multiplayer elements of multiplayer games. Easy to join groups by building the endgame foundation from the start and letting players experience it together.
I heard this game is good, man, but it just looks so not good, you know? It's like I can't even... I think I got to like level 2 and I quit. I was like, I couldn't look at it.
Your game shouldn't begin at endgame. It may become extremely challenging at endgame, that's fine, that's actively encouraged, but it needs to start preparing the players for that.
This game had the best designed class. The Ranger, the best fucking game, like the best fucking character class, whatever. It was so much fun, and I wish somebody in an MMO would make it. Honestly, Survival Hunter should be what Ranger is in Neverwinter. Hands down. Or a tank. But I prefer if they go with this way.
That challenge from the beginning. New players want to look at the most challenging content like dungeons and raids, stuff they can't do yet, and then they want to look at what they're currently doing and be able to see relevance or connection. They want to hear the amazing stories from their friends and then go have similar adventures or experiences knowing they are working toward them. If your game ultimately becomes something because that something is the best your game can be, then versions of that something need to be available for all players throughout the game. The MMORPG is a fascinating genre which more often than not, unfortunately, combines the weaknesses of all of its individual parts.
I would say this is the biggest problem for MMORPGs, and it's not... I mean, for his point of view, Dungeons and Raids should be early game. I get that, that's fine. But I would say the biggest problem of MMORPGs is the RPG aspect and balancing it out. When you play a single-player RPG, you want to explore, you want to see, you want to try new things, you want to like make a new character and try a different build, stuff like that. That's why you play single-player RPGs, right? It's like, and obviously story and stuff like that. In an MMORPG, you can't really do that. You can make a new character, but it's like exploration kind of once, and it's also usually not much to explore in MMORPG. You can't go to like a hidden cave that no one has discovered, kind of like, you know how you're seeing an anime or a manga, it's like you are the first to discover this dungeon. It's like you clear, it's like this dungeon will disappear within 30 days. Until it disappears, everyone gets 2x XP while in this dungeon. Of course, no one knows where the dungeon is, you're not sharing, then the dungeon disappears because whatever, right? It's like shit like this you cannot do in an MMO, okay? Would be great, but you can't. Like, it's just like pretty sure it's like impossible to fucking code that shit, right? So it's like the biggest problem of MMORPG is the RPG aspect of it, by far, right? The dungeons, the raids, yeah, it's a problem. You should be able to do something similar early. I don't think it solves anything. I think most people just want to go to like the end game and just fucking like grind through and just go there. Because that's where everyone is, right? Why would somebody who's doing endgame content, heroic raid, mythic raid, savage raid, whatever, or like just regular raid, why would he want to go and do old stuff aside from cosmetics? To help his friend? Come on.
When instead,
maybe once in a while,
combining the strengths. The strengths of the RPG being you can create your own character, your own class, your own series of answers for the question.
Your own class is probably the thing that died with MMORPGs. I wish there would be an MMORPG where you start as no class. And based on how you develop your character, that's the class you are. You want to be a war mage, you're building strength and intellect. You want to be a paladin, strength and faith or wisdom, whatever. You want to be a mage, just go intellect. You want to be, I don't know, an earth mage, you build wisdom and intellect. You want to be a fire mage, you intellect. You want to be an archer, agility and strength. You want to be an assassin, agility. You know, shit like this, right? You want to be a sniper, strength and agility. You want to be a warrior, just pure strength, like berserker, right? But yeah, you don't have that because it's impossible to fucking balance.
And challenges the game is going to throw at you, and the strengths of the multiplayer element, the ability to go on this adventure with your friends or with the rest of the community at large, available extremely early in the game. Group content is vital to the survival of an MMO.
I would say dungeons are overall pretty early on in all MMOs I played, except maybe Guild Wars. But Guild Wars, I might be wrong, it just felt like it took forever to get into a dungeon.
RPG, group content should not be a reward for enduring the early solo content. Group content should be a vital and accessible part of your game from the start. But what do you think? Should dungeons and raids be available from early in the game, or should they remain a reward for finishing the rest of the game?
But they are available. I don't know any MMORPG where dungeons is not part of like your leveling experience. World of Warcraft starts at 15. Final Fantasy starts, I believe, at 18 or 20 with Sastasha. Guild Wars 2, whatever that first dungeon is, I don't even remember. ESO, pretty much, I believe it's like every zone has 1 or 2 dungeons. Like every map has 1 or 2 dungeons. I believe it's 1. Right? That's like you have to go for a quest. You have to go there for a quest. It's like all of them, and it scales you up. So it's like you can just go there with like anyone you want. I don't know. I can't think of an MMO where like dungeons is not a part of leveling. I would say raids should not be endgame only. Okay, fair enough. But how do you solve that problem?
Are they a useful training tool, or should players know what they're doing before even joining? Let me know in the comments below. Cheers for watching. Another massive thank you to all the supporters on Patreon and...
God damn, he has a lot of Patreons. I don't think you can solve the rating problem. Like, the only way to solve the rating problem, for the most part, like for earlier levels, would be to have a horizontal progression only. Like, ESO can solve the rating problem by allowing you to go into the trials at the whatever level. Maybe. Right. Final Fantasy kind of solves it because a lot of people are still doing old raids for some reason, so you can still queue into them. It takes a while, but you can. And you have the trials. So that's a raid environment. WoW, I mean, no one queues to old raids ever because there's nothing to get from them. Even the cosmetics is like good fucking luck. And it's like you might as well run it solo because you can speed run the fuck out of it instead of playing with people.
Twitch, who keep the channel alive. You can support from only £1 a month.
Anyways, cool video. I don't necessarily disagree with him. I just don't know what the solution is. Dungeons, I disagree. I think dungeons are part of the leveling experience anyways. In between raids, I just don't. I cannot imagine a solution that doesn't change how the game works, like fundamentally. Like, you can't take a vertical progression game like WoW and add raids to be relevant for people who are leveling. It's like, why? How? Like, they're not going to be able to do it. And it's going to be overwhelming just like from like how many skills and abilities and talents they suddenly get. Like, I don't see a solution for raids. If someone knows a solution, fuck it. But like, dungeons is easy. Anyways, that's the video. Josh Strife Hayes. Always like his content. Don't know like, I don't disagree, don't agree with him on this one, but it is what it is. I just don't think there's a solution. Fundamentally, I agree with him, but I don't see a solution. So that it is what it is. Anyways, let's go to the next one.